It is a program to take Indigenous artists and also scholars and expand the horizons, dealing with other Indigenous artists in other areas and also interacting with museum collections and such. And tonight, the speakers, the leaders, Louis Garcia and Lori Webster, will talk about, along with all the participants, we'll talk about a trip in 2019 that they and other people took down to Oaxaca to interact with the traditional textile and basketry workers, artists. And so we're really excited to hear from all of the participants tonight. And I will turn it over to Louis and Laura.
Okay, I'm going to start. So good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to welcome you to our presentation tonight about the Arizona Archaeological and Historical Society's new Traditional Technologies Program and its first study seminar to Oaxaca, Mexico. It was an incredible trip and an unforgettable experience for all of us. Before we introduce the documentary, I'd like to say a few words about the program, and then Louis is going to introduce you to the seminar participants and explain a little bit about the selection process. Then later, you're going to have an opportunity to hear from the funded participants. So the Traditional Technologies Program was established in 2018 to provide research and travel opportunities for Native American, Hispano, and non-Native teachers, scholars, and students who practice and study Southwestern traditional technologies and arts. The program offers two types of study seminars, which are offered in alternating years. The first is an international seminar for an invited group of participants to travel to Latin America to meet with Indigenous artists. And the second is a domestic seminar for a self-organized group of Native American or Hispano scholars to travel to museum collections in the US. Participation in the international seminar is by invitation, and participation in the domestic travel program is through a competitive application process. The first domestic travel seminar was supposed to happen in 2020, and we're hoping it'll happen in 2022. It is led by Danae Weavers, Barbara Teller Anellis, and Linda Teller Peet, and they've organized a group of weavers to travel to Washington, D.C. to study Navajo textiles. If you'd like more information about the program or the application process, you can find that on the Arizona Archaeological and Historical Society's webpage under the Traditional Technologies heading. So tonight we're going to talk about the first international trip, which was led, sorry, that's my cat, led to Oaxaca, Mexico in 2019. And the trip was organized and led by travel guide extraordinaire, Eric Mindling of the company Traditions Mexico. So now I'm going to turn this over to Louis, and he's going to say a few words about the invited participants and the selection process and introduce the filmmaker for the documentary you're going to see in a few minutes.
Thanks, Lori. Kinumam kima. Good evening, everybody. The 11 seminar participants of the inaugural trip included Indigenous Pueblo weavers and scholars, Akima Honyumtiwa from Hopi, Christopher Lewis from the Pueblo of Zuni, Mary Wiaki from the Pueblo of Santa Clara and Comanche, and myself, Louis Garcia of Tiwa and Pito heritage from Southern New Mexico. In addition, the trip also included the then graduate student of pre-Hispanic Southwestern Textiles, Ben Bellarado, biologist and traditional technologies researcher Chuck LaRue, Chicano scholar and filmmaker Curly Tlapoyawa, and the 4 members of the Traditional Technologies Committee, which included myself, Louis Garcia, Kelly Hayes Gilpin, Shelby Tisdale, and Lori Webster, and the then president of the society, John Douglas. And I will go ahead and share an image right quick while I talk about that piece. Okay. Lost you guys. All right. So I'll talk a little bit about the criteria that that we had for the trip. The pilot trip, which included the committee members and the indigenous participants, we were looking for Native artists who were committed to their art form, particularly fiber arts or any aspect thereof, which could include basketry, textile weaving, cotton, wool, or otherwise. We wanted individuals who were involved in perpetuating, revitalizing, and or innovating traditional weaving methods and styles, and committed to teaching that through education of other weavers within their community and beyond. Then for the non-native scholars on the trip were invited to share different perspectives and expertise during the trip, whether that be traditional technologies, archaeology, iconography, ethnography, etc. At this time, I'd like to introduce Curly Tlapoyawa, who is a very advanced filmmaker and historian. And we'll go ahead and turn it over to Curly. Thank you.
Piali Piali no Chime. Hello, everyone. My name is Curly Tlapoyawa, and I was really honored to be part of this trip. Very glad to have partaken in it. And one of the big issues with documenting something like this trip is just trying to distill, 10 days down to 25, 30 minutes. So I kind of had to go through and just pick, things that resonated with myself personally and things that I thought would resonate with the audience and hopefully inspire people to make this trip themselves, to go to Oaxaca and take the time to learn about these techniques and interact with these individuals. When the world sets right again and we're able to make trips like this again, hopefully people will be inspired to do that. I want to dedicate this film, and there's a little mention at the end of the movie, so please watch it all the way to the end, because I got to meet a lot of people that had significant impact on me, and so this movie is dedicated to one of those individuals. So I hope everybody enjoys it. Las Kamati. Thank you.
My name is Curly Tlapoyawa. I'm a Chicano archaeologist whose research covers the Southwest, Mesoamerica, and the connections between the two regions. In the spring of 2019, I was part of a group of archaeologists and traditional Pueblo weavers who traveled together to Oaxaca, Mexico. There, we were privileged to receive and share knowledge with amazing indigenous textile artisans. This is Traditional Tech, Oaxaca.
La pura tela con esto, en blanco.
Ah, sí. Ah, para preparar la tela.
Para preparar la tela.
Y esa tela ya está hervido en alumbre.
Ya está hervido en alumbre.
Okay, so preparing the cloth, that cloth had already been boiled in water with alumbre, with alum in it.
Oh, okay.
And then he hung it up, and then he put it over here.
Okay.
So it already went through that step.
Pues de un pueblo por acá cercano que se llamaba Chichicapa, que era lana cardeada a mano y también hecho torcido a mano. Ahorita lo compramos del estado de Puebla,
sí,
pero ya lo hacen en
taller de fábrica, ¿no?
En fábricas.
You say it's kind of like
He's
mole?
saying all dyers have different recipes, kind of like making mole. Some of them use,
Mira que es verde.
use certain kinds of tree, fruit, sparks.
He boils over 2 or 3 hours, is that right?
No, it used to take him 2 or 3 hours to get the water to boil. Oh yes, this will be an hour and a half or 2 hours to
Sí, tiene que ser más tiempo para que... Ya si uno quiere cambiar el color un poquito más, este es sal de mar.
Now, if you want to change the color a little bit, this is sea salt. Hey, that looks like what we've been eating.
Este es de índigo. Este es índigo más fuerte, índigo otro. Y ese es el reverso.
And then here's the inverse.
Ese es el reverso.
So they do it like
Es el reverso. Y ese es el lado, el derecho.
Modern adaptation. She said we went changing, but this is hand spun wool, and this specific kind of whippeal would be wedding whippeal. And yes, the colors ran like that because the access to the dyes in the period when these were being made, they're aniline dyes and they're not color fast. This for making a shawl. Ajá, pásalo para que.
did they make that?
Ajá, más delgadito
Ya.
cuando es.
¿Quién hiló esto?
Otra señora. Ajá.
She said one of our group spun that. So that's all hand spun. Por eso lo tienen que tener parado. Do you work then in sections?
Yeah. How you join it?
Aquí es una foto que están uniendo. What are we joining here? 2 pieces?
You weave it together.
Ah, donde se van juntando de arriba hacia abajo, abajo hacia arriba. Y esa es la parte final. Buen truco.
Sí, pues es que la aguja, casi es lo que hacemos nosotros. Bueno, en mi caso lo que hago también con la aguja, ir cortando los hilos para que se cierre bien.
Ajá, ajá.
Enormes los telares.
Enorme. El año.
El año,
Pero que fue hace un buen.
sí,
Quizás los 60.
ahorita tengo 64 años.
Ah, ok. Entonces más después, porque no creo que tenía usted 4 años cuando pasaba el camino.
Este sí, es encino. Este es encino.
Ah, so this is oak.
She said no, it's not the broomstick, but the broomstick bends over. It won't stand the pressure.
So what type of wood is it?
That is oak.
Oak,
The bar ends are oak, yeah.
So is this your first time in Oaxaca?
First time, hopefully not the last.
Have you been to Mexico before?
Nope.
No, so it's your first time in Mexico.
Yep, first time
Period.
ever.
That's cool.
I'm gonna try some of these new techniques into my styles. So I'm gonna expand now thanks to this.
So you're seeing stuff that you like.
I'm seeing stuff that I can do, yeah. Just like the back strap, I know I can do the back strap. I see how it's done. I can do it. And as for the way they're weaving their dresses, I could be a lot of help on making them wider. You know what I mean? Just like at the other place we just visited too. When she saw how wide the dunes were, she never seen it that way. So I don't know over here if they've seen an upright loom or not. You know, where you can tie it on the ceiling and use rocks to hold it down, which would probably make it a lot faster than how they're doing it, because they've probably never seen how we've done it. So maybe you could share each other's information and help.
My name is Mary Wiaki. I'm on this trip and it's a wonderful trip. I've learned so much from day one. I think that the diversity of cultures, the exchange of cultural, religious aspects into the weavings, the meanings and definitions of the colors, the regalia, the usage of what they have left and what we have left is almost on a similar scale. we're all trying to revive these levels of artistry, but not only artistry, but the native part of the regalia. And having the other natives, I've seen a difference in the people we visit. They feel more comfortable because there's natives. There's people of color with these outsiders. And I just feel it, you know. I mean, I kind of joke around, but they let me sing with them and talk to them and laugh with them, and then they ever relax. You know, they're not stressed out. They trust us. So they trust to say things in front of us that they probably wouldn't say in front of anybody else. That's how I feel.
Ya ninguno teje la figura más antigua. Es que si no era mucho, creo que
Nobody's
no,
weaving the old designs. They're all trying to find. No, I don't have the old design on.
no pensaba mucho, sino nada más ellos sí copiaban. Pero ahora que están implementando mucho más
She said, you know,
figuras.
we used to just copy the old designs, but now we're just bringing in all sorts of new designs.
Can you ask, when did the women get their first looms? And do they always have the same one?
Pregunta aquí el compañero que ¿cuándo es que recibe su primer telar? ¿Como a qué edad? Y que si siempre tejen en el mismo telar.
Empezamos con un telar chiquito.
We start with a little teeny loom.
Adaptando. Principalmente aprendemos lo que es manejar el telar, nada más así casi lo blanco
You just
y
start
liso,
with a little loom with
sin
plain weave.
figuras. Aprendemos a tejer con un telar chiquitito y ya conforme uno va acostumbrando a hacer movimientos, si uno no sabe tejer, esto cuesta mucho trabajo.
This
Levantar.
process of lifting,
Ajá.
what she's doing right now,
Y nos cuesta,
that's
si uno no sabe
pretty
tejer,
specific technique if you don't know how to
es
weave
muy
yet.
difícil hacer el movimiento. Primero aprendemos a tejer
So then we have to learn how to
puro
weave that way.
liso y ya que domina uno, pues ya nos ponen un telar un poquito más ancho.
And once you're
más
good
o
at that,
menos
then you
a
get a
los
little
6,
wider loom at around 6
dependiendo
years
de
of
la
age.
persona. Hay
Depending on
personas
the
desde
kid.
los 6
6 years,
hasta los 8
8
años van
years,
aprendiendo a tejer
learning
y
to
ya
weave.
la misma persona aprende con las figuras básicas
And then you start learning with the basic figures, designs.
y ya que ya sabe, cuando ya la niña ya domina, ella ya solo va sacando sus figuritas.
And once she's got the hang of those basic designs, then she'll just start making her own figures. She doesn't need to be taught anymore. She gets it.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
How's your day been?
Fantastic.
So what was your highlights thus far?
I would say in general, for me, seeing the interactions between the native people on the trip, the indigenous people here, has been remarkable to me.
Pero esta técnica es muy antigua.
Sí, me imagino que sí.
Se llama tramas envolvientes.
Ajá,
Solamente estoy trabajando con así de hilo nada más. Y es
para poder. Sí,
Ya,
porque
por
esta le dieron 3 envolturas
Ajá.
en un solo jalón
Sí.
para que y se tejió pero también lo envuelven tanto
trama
vertical,
y bordín.
ajá,
Sí.
trama y siempre. Sí, sí, tanto vertical como horizontal se fue envolviendo y sí está muy padre. Más o menos les platico que el huipil representa el universo, ¿no?
So she said basically the wipil represents the universe.
Ajá, y es se hace toda una vida desde el nacimiento.
It transverses through a whole life from birth,
Empezamos a tejer de este lado,
Starting
que
here,
nacemos,
where we were
ajá,
born.
y ya que terminamos de tejer hasta 2 figuras acá,
After we've done 2
damos
figures,
la vuelta al telar y ya
We
empezamos a tejer de este lado.
and then we turn
Ajá.
the loom over and we start weaving on the
Pero
opposite
como
side.
todo es un principio y un fin, así vamos avanzando, plasmamos todo el universo y terminamos acá. Termina con la muerte de este lado.
Como lo blanco. Okay.
Ajá, ya cuando terminamos lo blanco acá,
We weave all the way to the other side and we end with death, which is this white.
Ajá, y ya que tenemos todos estos pedacitos acá de chiquito, ya no nos da espacio para hacer figuras.
Oh, so the loom, we
Ya-
can't technically
ya
weave
nada
figures
más.
in that area.
Y sobre todo, este es un telar cerrado, no cortamos ni nada, sino como empezamos, así tenemos que regresar, pero entonces ya se hace muy, ya
Muy
no
reducido.
tenemos casi espacio, ya se hace muy cerrado.
So when you're getting to that end,
Tenemos que tejer con palitos muy
it's
delgaditos.
a very
o hasta
reduced
con
space to
alguno.
weave, and you weavers know this, right? And so
Ya
then we're just using
solamente
little teeny sticks to finish this piece up.
nos deja tejer lo liso, lo blanco, y entonces ya tejemos hasta donde se pueda tejer, ya muy reducido,
We
hasta
weave
donde entran los palos,
as much
y ya
as we
que
can
lo
possibly get the sticks
lo
in.
quita, cuando ya
And
no
then
cabe
when we
ningún
take it
palo,
off,
lo sacamos y ya se rellena con una pinita, se rellena, por eso queda medio jaladito.
Por eso que hace espacio blanco, para que
Ajá, ahí
ya no
espacio,
puede meterle
es la parte terminal de todo huipil, porque estos no se cortan, son las piezas más enteras que hay. Entonces,
Okay.
Bueno, pues nosotros somos un grupo de años
We have been a good group of artisans for years.
y casi prácticamente somos del grupo Textile, pues de lo que es el textil de Santa María Zacatecas.
We're basically the group of weavers in this village that left.
Y desde con el algodón empezamos otra vez a rescatarlo.
We have done work of reviving or rescuing cotton
Hace aproximadamente como unos 5 años.
starting about 5 years ago.
El algodón blanco y coyuche.
White and coyuche, which is brown. She's showing us here. It's disappearing because there aren't that many people who want to buy it anymore. She said the winds of change have hit our community very strongly, definitely including the way that people dress. So without realizing it, we've been losing our identity bit by bit.
Pero pues el grupo Yucatán pues está en esa lucha de querer restablecer otra vez lo que era antes.
So our group has been trying to change this and to bring back what Zacatepec was before in terms of textiles.
Mini.
Ajá.
Tamaño pati in
There you go.
Tutso'o. Tutso'o.
Not clear to me if it's woods or names,
Shitu.
Well, if you could explain to her,
Tocane.
in the
Tocane.
Southwest, we also have backstrap looms
Tuisa.
that are very,
Tuitsa.
very old. And
Tuitsa.
I'm interested in what are the types of
Tuitsa.
Mini.
qualities
Gitu balik.
of
Ya.
the woods for the
Mini.
different pieces. What type of qualities you're looking for, but then also the wood.
Entonces dice, mire, es que nosotros que hemos estudiado la textura y el suroeste sí se han encontrado telares de cintura. Ahí también en la actividad. Entonces ahí están las maderas. Y lo que yo estoy queriendo entender es que cuáles son las distintas cualidades de las maderas.
Kata.
No solo cuál es la madera,
¿Y esto también es kata?
Ajá.
Kata también.
Kata.
Cada madera se escoge por algún
Tushillo.
ese a lo mejor
Tushillo.
Tushillo.
más largo, a lo mejor
Tushillo.
Tushillo.
cuáles
Ajá,
son las características que quieren en
¿Y
estas
cómo se
maderas,
dice gracias?
que tienen, que
Gracias.
permiten
Ta
que sean
bintión.
muy,
Ta bintión.
muy
Ta
útiles.
bindio.
Tabinkyo.
Ta
Tabinkyo
bindio.
para usted, tía.
Al momento después de ya pueden dar, pues se pregunta por qué bailar.
Saying this is the process they're
trying to compact the cotton, so then it's easier to make the thread. So that's what here's the fingers together, spread it out, fold it over, spread it out, do that over and over. So that those fibers open and here, and that's when you're spinning. That's where you can draft it out and it'll be for the most part.
Así. Antes en el pueblo y ese es el ritmo de
This rhythm that you used to hear in every house, and basically in the old days, no? In the old grandma's days, where everybody used to do it like this. Not anymore. Like we lost it.
Sí, pero muy poco, muy poco, muy poco. Pues así ese era el proceso de hilar antiguamente.
This is the old process of making the thread.
Para hacerlos.
They said I was doing okay, so it's not the best.
You'd been on this trip before.
I have. I've been on this trip at least 4 times. This is my 4th trip.
Is this the first time New Mexican natives and Arizona natives came as like a contingent?
Yes, this is the first time, to my knowledge, of Native Americans coming from the Southwest to experience and learn from the native peoples here, the indigenous peoples here. And from what I've seen, it's been kind of a more of an exchange, not just one group learning from the other, but both groups learning from each other.
So we had completely lost knowledge about dyeing, and we learned it through workshops. And then we started experimenting once we started getting a feel for it. Try out other plants that are around here.
Teñimos con corteza de nanche.
We also use nanche bark,
Concha de coco.
coconut shell,
Anís.
indigo,
Flor de cempasúchil.
marigold,
Camote silvestre.
wild kind of tuber,
Hueso de aguacate.
avocado seed,
Hueso de mamey.
mamey seed, which we just were.
Las hojas del árbol del almendro.
The leaves of the almendro tree right
Las
here.
hojas.
The leaves.
Oh. What kind of pizza do you want?
Something with Oaxaca.
Oh, right. They'll have more on the beach, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
The airports. Yeah, it's very, a touristy. More touristy.
So what do you think of this place?
It's amazing.
This is the promise. And there won't be an ATM machine until. Yeah. So they use condor feather bones She said we're accumulating a lot of stuff right now because we're hoping to go to the Santa Fe International Folk Art Market.
Oh, wow.
We're applying for that, and we may be admitted. And of course, you need a lot of merchandise to go do that. All right, we got interesting weaving going on here, right? Because she's got This is beyond my technical knowledge. Anybody who knows more can describe what she's doing, but she's got multiple heddles so that she can create the designs here.
Spun commercially because the staple length is too short.
Interesting, yeah. And the Namuso, where it was very short, but in San Juan, Colorado, that kind that Rosalba was talking about bringing back, it's long. We're using indigo to get this color, and they're using any old thread they can get, cheap thread, and now they don't want to pay the price. She said this is worth more, it costs more to make, it's better quality, but they're using cheaper stuff there. So she says, I don't really sell them up there anymore. And there was a period of time, well, first of all, it used to take, antes, Teresa, cuando iba usted hace 20 años, ¿cuánto tiempo hacía para llegar a Iztayutla? ¿Cuánto tardaba?
¿Vale?
¿Cuánto tardaba para llegar a Iztayutla hace tiempo?
Salimos en Iztayutla a la 1 de la mañana.
Ajá.
Salimos de Iztayutla a las 6 de la tarde, llegamos a San José de las Flores, caminando.
Caminando.
A la 1 de la mañana.
Ajá.
Fui 2 veces con mi esposo caminando, no hay carro.
No hay carro.
De ahí en San José de las Flores, ahí nos quedamos hasta el otro día. Encontramos, hay una camioneta que sale temprano, sale a las 5 de la mañana. Entonces, hasta el otro día me salgo a San José para llegar a Mitepec.
So I'm asking her, how long did it take to get there? She said, well, it used to be, if we were in Iztayutla coming back, we'd start walking at 1 a.m. from Iztayutla, and at 6 p.m. we'd get to a place called San Jose de las Flores. So all morning, all day, and into the evening. And then at 6 p.m., we'd stay over the night there, and then the next day at 5 a.m., she said there used to be a pickup truck that could take you from there to Jamiltepec, and then Jamiltepec's on this highway, and then we get a ride there. So it's a 2-day journey back in the old days. Now there's a road that's paved, partially paved, that you can get up there in 3 or 4 hours. It's become much easier, like every place else. But there was a period of time this decade when it was a very dangerous road to travel. There was a lot of banditry going on that road. Look through the machine, that metal machine, if we have to go to the U.S. consulate, because they go to the States sometimes to get their visas, they stop her because and her keys are making the machine go off. They're checking me out. Where you got? Where's the knife? Where's the? Están buscando metralleta, pistola. Y ahí tienes
Le enseño esto.
And she remembered that, oh, I had my keys. Oh yeah, this is the one that's her mother's. From when her mother got married. So remember, married and buried, right? And notice, so first of all, this is what you tie one of these up with. Wrap around your waist.
Yo también tengo la plancha, pero no me acordé de traerme. Pero sí tengo.
Note the difference. This is what. There you go. Here's a new one.
Ándele, doña. Ándele. Ándele, va que esté bien. Cuídense mucho.
A ustedes por visitarnos.
Gracias por la visita. Muchas gracias.
Okay, so we're taking these 2 boats. Preferably we split in even numbers.
Estos son este que está aquí.
gonna bring him back over.
Alright, success.
He said we couldn't get the ink out of it because it squirted the ink.
Yeah. Lo blanco es la tinta. Y luego se regresa otra vez a la sombra, igual.
¡Ey!
Allá están unos grandes, allá lo voy a...
Vale, sí. There you go, look at that, it's a nice big one. See the ink coming out? That white kind of foamy liquid is neurotoxin. Don't snort it.
Todo eso que está blanco, lo blanco, todo eso es la tinta.
That goop is the dye.
Detalla uno la parte de la panza para que él tenga una como cosquilla y avienta, saque más la tinta. Y aquí va cambiando el color con el sol, ya te estás dando cuenta que ya se está volviendo verde. Puede tardar años y no le pega el sol, no se convierte en tinta. Hasta que lo saquen al sol, entonces se va.
He said it could be years that it stays that yellow color if it's, or green color if it's not exposed to sunlight.
¿Este se llama cucaracha del mar o lengua de perro?
Lengua de perro.
Ajá, lengua de perro
o cucaracha del mar.
Sí, esa es su comida, es carnívoro.
That's its food. That's what it eats.
Cockroach of the sea or the...
Por eso él siempre está pegado al...
¿Cuántos caracoles necesitas para
este hilo?
finalizar? Sí.
Para este pequeño, como unos 100 caracolitos. Sí, porque para una madeja mediana son 300. Una madeja mediana. Ya aprendiste,
Trained observer.
Ya lo reconoció. Ya se está convirtiendo verde. Caracol joven, cuando crecen de este tamaño, lo máximo, unos 10, 15 centímetros, lo más grande.
I think what I found on this trip that everything was really spectacular, amazing. The work the people did, reinvigorating myself to try and revive a lost technique, which is a backstrap. Zunis used to weave their belts with backstraps, and so to watch the ladies weave, how the setup is, and the techniques they use for spinning. I think what really got me was that they have a lot of the same things culturally that we do have in the Pueblos. as far as like marriage clothing, how the men have to serve an office for a year, and a lot of similarities between the natives here in Oaxaca and the Pueblo natives in New Mexico. That gives me a push again to continue with what I'm doing.
So you found it inspiring?
Yes, inspiring to continue with pushing the revitalization of basketry in Zuni.
A las 6 de la tarde llegamos a San José de las Flores, caminando.
Caminando.
A la 1 de la mañana. Fui 2 veces con mi esposo caminando, no hay carro.
No hay carro.
All right, now we're going to hear from some of the team members, and we'll start with Ben Bellarado.
Howdy, let me just share my screen. I gotta have a couple slides. Can you see them? Is that a yes?
Yes, Ben, it's there.
All right, great. Well, yeah, this was an incredible trip, as you saw in Curly's amazing video. And as you guys have heard, and I was just really so fortunate and thankful to have been invited and to have gone there. It was my 3rd time to Oaxaca, but definitely the trip I learned the most on. Especially thanks to Lori and Eric Minling, who really, took us around. I know a lot of people had their fingers in organizing this, but, we went all over Oaxaca and saw a lot of the different variety of cultures and places, and ate a lot of great food and even tried a little bit of great mezcal. But it was amazing. But some of the highlights I had from this trip, I was a grad student finishing on a PhD at the time at University of Arizona, and I really focused a lot on textiles and textile production in the ancient Southwest. And I've played around a fair bit with different spinning of different materials like yucca and even cotton, dog hair, things like that. But it was so great to kind of take what I had learned and just kind of see it in action with these people, living this culture. On the left here, you can see this is a depiction in one of the main books on textiles, and you see this amorphous lady kind of spinning with a supported spindle. Well, we met those people, and we saw, this is a picture right here of myself spinning with these Mixtec ladies from San Juan, Colorado, and they were so much fun, and they taught me how to do this. It was totally different technique than I'd ever tried around with. Very difficult, and we were just laughing the whole time. There was a lot of really interesting cultural exchange, not only in this part of Mesoamerica are women, primarily the weavers, and a lot of the northern southwest of the US. But also I was probably the biggest white guy they'd ever seen, and I was sitting there trying to spin with them, and we were just having a great time, and I was doing things wrong and they were laughing at me, but I was learning and they were teaching. It was great. But of course, another thing, as an archaeologist, I am really interested in the weaving tools, the loom parts. And so I was really focused on, seeing how different things were made, different loom parts and weaving tools, and what the ends of the bars looked like. And as you saw in the video, Chuck and I were taking a lot of notes on the types of wood and the names of the tools in these various, I think we went to at least 10 different backstrap loom weaving demonstrations. And then I took that home, that knowledge, and then it really helped me understand what I was seeing in the archaeological record up in the Bears Ears area, the northern Southwest, looking at relic loom parts and weaving battens and loom anchors, these things that were from the 1200s and earlier. And it really helped me understand what I was looking at and kind of contextualize, the various processes that went into cotton textile production in general. And what it's really also helped me to understand, and just really fascinating, is how similar, especially the backstrap loom weaving, how similar it is across this huge expanse of the ancient in North and South America. And so if you go to Peruvian highlands, or the Huichol area in Western Mexico, or where we saw in Oaxaca, Mexico, the Mixtec version, and we compare that to the Northern Southwest, to the backstrap loom in particular, they're really identical. And so that really is amazing to me. It speaks to across these different cultures and continents and languages, people shared this technology for, over 1,000 years or longer, really, almost 2,000 in some places. And it just speaks to that incredible continuity of cultures and just the innovation of people to take things across different environments. And then, of course, to bring it into the modern. So, looking at these ancient looms and then see these ladies weaving on these things and to see them in motion, basically taking this ancient technology and putting it to use, as they just haven't stopped, but we're just seeing this. And then finally, let's see here. And get past this. The third real highlight, I gotta say, there were so many things though, is really listening to discussions between weavers. And you saw a bit of that in Curly's video talking about that. But that was just amazing. It was to see the Pueblo weavers talk about how the issues in their cultures and in their Pueblos and in the US, and talking about the same types of issues that some of these folks were talking about in Oaxaca, like the loss of the technology, the loss of the interest in passing on this technology to new generations. And it was, just really fun to see. And then for the native folks in Oaxaca as well, to hear, like in this picture on the right, when Chris Lewis Zuni started talking about how they use metates in Zuni still, and for these certain communal rituals and events, and these folks, they wow, there's this Pueblos in the US. We had no idea that was even a thing, and to see that light up on their face, it was just really fascinating. So that's pretty much the end of what I had to say, other than we also did have a whole lot of fun. I don't know if that came through at all, but it was great to meet all these folks, and I know I really hope to keep working with everybody on the trip to some extent in years to come. So thank you again for having me, and without further ado, I'll turn it over then to Louis.
Thanks, Ben. So like Ben, I think we definitely did have lots of fun. We all, had opportunities to be able to interact with some amazing artists. Myself, as a Pueblo fiber artist, one of the things that I took away is just connecting with our relatives to the south. In our Pueblo oral tradition, there are stories that talk about our connections with the South and the knowledge and the parts of of the traditional aspects of the Pueblo way of life. Mention some significant connections with our Southern brothers and sisters. And for me, especially my family, my wife's family, are Nahuas from the central part of Mexico, actually the state of Morelos. So we make annual trips down to visit family and also visit communities that maintain these traditions. And as a weaver, I also do a certain amount of research on this topic, and so on this trip I was able to actually see things that I had only previously seen in books or on YouTube. So to see it firsthand and be able to interact with the artists and these women who were carrying this tradition, it just really blew my mind that there's still a place on this earth where these traditions are still not only very much alive, but a viable living and breathing tradition that is bringing in income and is a sustainable way of living and carrying on culture and tradition. It was really humbling. It was really humbling to see the way that these women and these communities maintain these traditions despite so many obstacles and so many limitations, whether it be economic, whether it be whatever it is, and just to hear their stories about Doña Margarita talking about, you know, the 2-day walk to another village to go and trade. And, you know, it brought me back to when, you know, our ancestors were walking from village to village to trade and to take part in ceremony and to share knowledge and resources. So it was really a great experience to be able to experience it firsthand and be able just to experience that with my colleagues and everyone else on the trip. So I just wanted to share that much. Thank you.
Okay, we'll turn it over to Akila now.
Thank you for, first of all, I want to say it's an extreme honor to be able to be invited on this trip. And as a Hopi weaver, traditional weaver, it's my mission to try to help the Pueblo Hopis how to weave and how to bring back not only the weaving, but the dyeing and the spinning, which I was able to see in Oaxaca, Mexico. And a lot of the weavings are the same, just as we saw the backstrap loom. But what I didn't see was an upright loom like we do in the Southwest that makes whole blanket size or, you know, dress size that are one piece. And I noticed down there that a lot of their textiles are in multiple pieces or in 3 pieces, which are sewn together as one, which is very good. And I noticed a lot of their textiles are real intricate and fine. A lot of fine work and smaller threads than we use in Hopi, which are more thicker and more, you know, bulky. But being able to go down there and witness the other tribes, the cultures, and how similar it is with our culture in the Pueblos in Southwest. And it would be even more better if you can invite them, the Mexico tribes, up to us, because I notice a lot of them don't know about Pueblos, or even, you know, someone like me that walked in as a Hopi who's never seen, you know, a Pueblo before. And it would be even a good way for them to come see us and how we live and how we do our work, just like we were able to see them and work together. So that's just an idea that would probably help both of us. But I enjoyed meeting the people, the other artists. I enjoyed meeting the archaeologists and being able to go down there and see the ancient architectures that are also similar to Pueblos. And I know that a lot of the tribes, native tribes from not just Mexico and the Southwest, but in South America as well, we are all brothers and sisters, and we should be all sharing this kind of knowledge, which is arts and crafts, considered to be arts and crafts, which should be available for male or female in today's times. But I just like to say it was an honor to be able to go, and I hope that in the future we'll be able to go on more trips. It was fun. I never been on the ocean. I never been, you know, into those kind of areas, especially someone like me, a Hopi, that a lot of Hopis don't get a chance to go to and experience, which, you know, was something I can tell to as a weaving instructor myself. I also teach weaving in Hopi classes, and I'm able to tell them about my experiences about the weavings, and mostly the spinning and dyeing is what I was more interested in. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk and to be able to be a part of this trip. And I want to thank everybody that was there, and I'm glad to see you guys again. And thank you very much. And we'll send it to my good buddy, Chuck LaRue. So take it away, Chuck.
Yeah, to echo what everybody else was saying, it was a real honor to do this, be invited on this trip. You know, it was actually a real enlightened idea. It was brilliant. The person, the unnamed sponsor, thank you. It was a wonderful gift. I think everybody really enjoyed it. I'm a biologist, with an interest in these traditional technologies. And yeah, I wasn't prepared for what was coming. I was blown away. I still joke with Chris Lewis about how it still makes my head spin. And so just seeing all these vibrant technologies and all these wonderful groups of people, and you know, we're in one of the places, and a lady was wearing a tump band with a burden basket going up the road, and I said, I just couldn't believe it. It was interesting to see that. And then I came back and I began to ponder, you know, just what is Oaxaca? It's 1/3 the size of Arizona, where I live, on the Colorado Plateau, and the whole biodiversity thing down there. You know, Arizona's 3,400 plants. Oaxaca has 10,200 species, and I wondered, you know, what, you know, to have that kind of biodiversity at your disposal, what you can do with it. And so that was a sort of an eye-opening thing. And then Eric had mentioned how, you know, we were in the dry season. We're driving through all this country, and it looked fairly dry. And then I came back and wondered, well, what does the monsoon, how does that influence, and how did that influence, because the monsoon's big in Pueblo, northern Southwest Puebloan cultures. You know, you need the summer rains to mature the crops. And the monsoon starts down there, the Mexican monsoon starts down there, moves inland, and then the big thermal high in the desert Southwest, or excuse me, thermal low, pulls that moisture northward. And I had the thought that, you know, it pulled the people, it pulled the technology, it pulled the stories and the legends and the plants they grew for food, that pulled it all northward into the northern Southwest. And I just walked away from this thinking, you know, the Pueblo groups in the Southwest that's really part of Mesoamerica. And so it gave me a much broader view of things. And again, I'm just still stunned. And Chris and I were talking today, trying to figure out how to go back one of these days. But again, thank you to the committee members for the invitation. It was a wonderful trip. It was not at all what I was anticipating. To Eric and Luis, our guides, to the people we saw and visited with down there, and the sponsors that paid for all of this. So that is mine, and I'm not sure who comes after me.
We'll turn it over to Chris Lewis.
Hello. I'd like to say thank you to the organizers, tour guides, and fellow travelers for making it a wonderful experience to keep in my heart. As everyone's saying, it's people that live down there that are reviving their traditional textile knowledge, going out and hunting the few people that still know them and reviving it. That brought a lot of joy to my heart to hear, because I in particular do the same thing, trying to revive basketry here in Zuni and other pueblos that are asking to watch the women, the few women that we came across that were weaving baskets and doing all that work. The unique style of basketry, the plated baskets, the wicker work, the huge plated mats we saw in the markets. Overall, I was stunned at how much traditional crafts were seen in the markets for sale. Also, helping these communities keep their weaving technologies going by helping support them in their endeavors with what they were doing. I saw some things that I know we have lost here in the Pueblos in Zuni, and watching how they did it down there and looking at the traditional tools that were used prehistorically and how they could be brought back and used to in the revival of working with raw cotton, from planting to spinning to actually weaving, and to look back at all the stuff they're still using down there, and crafting and making the tools, the loom bars and everything for backstrap weaving. I felt a connection with our Southern relatives, as we say. All of the kinds of ceremonies, even the way governing systems are very similar to how we have it here. Talking to the lady selling the grinding stones and explaining to them some of how our things were done here, as far as group participation and everything. So it was a real honor to go and see all that, to experience it all, and come home and talk about it, to do all that stuff. So thank you to everyone for making it memorable. Next up, Curly, and sorry I cannot say your last name. You're up next.
All right. It's Lapoyawa, Chris. Tlaskamati, thank you, everyone. There's not really much more than I can add to what everybody's already said. You know, I just want to thank AAHS for making this this trip possible, for inviting me to participate. I want to thank all of my fellow travelers who went with me and made the trip awesome. And just one thing that I would ask anybody who is going to buy objects, traditionally made objects, you saw in the film just how time consuming and the work and skill level that goes into producing traditional art. And so when I see people trying to cut deals or talk people down on their price, maybe second think the urge to do that, having seen just how difficult it is, to create the dye, to go out and gather up all those shells to dye and create the purple color, and the work that goes into, hand dyeing everything and spinning everything and processing the cotton and then creating the artwork. I think it's important to realize just how much goes into that, and to respect the artists who create that work. So that's really all I have to say. And just thank you for everybody. Thank you to everybody for making this trip possible. It was an amazing experience. And I guess, who's next? Is it Mary? Is Mary next?
Yes, we'll turn it over to Mary. Thanks, Curly.
I guess I'm next, Curly. I really enjoyed this trip to Oaxaca. It was like Chris and the others pointed out, it was heartfelt, watching these traditional weavers and understanding their desperation to try and maintain their cultural properties within everything that they were doing. From the time you get up in the morning, you pray, you work on your items, are you gonna, it's all about survival for a lot of those women. And seeing them actually, they were doing what women need to do. We get up and we work. We get up and we have to take care of the family. And that's pretty much what they were doing. And like Curly said, you go out there, do not barter with them. Give them what they deserve for the work that they do. And women here in America, we're just now trying to revive that mentality in still a little bit of a male-dominated society. And I really appreciated the committee picking me to go. I enjoyed the social aspect of all of it, with meeting and going into the different villages. I had been to Oaxaca in 1976 and another trip in 77 and 78. And so I saw the transition from dirt roads to jungle to now asphalt roads to more modern technology. So when you allow the outside world in to these worlds, they sort of start to lose a little bit of their traditional culture. And like I was telling some of the women that I met, you are where we became assimilated. You're beginning to uh, think about, well, I heard the one woman say, we can't sell our um, regalia because if the men go to work in their traditional regalia, they get made fun of. Or, we don't really wear our dresses because, the outside world frowns upon it. Well, I just kind of I felt for them because that happened here and it's still happening here. And for them to they're reviving their technology, but like you heard the women in the one village say, well, we're not using traditional designs, we're creating new things. So that happens with pottery, it happens with basketry, whatever makes the money, then the whole village makes it. You know, I I practice prehistoric technology, so I spin from plant fibers, and they're spinning with plant fibers, cotton. So there is a transition that has to occur because we're developing, but we should still try to maintain a traditional mentality as natives, North and South. We are one people. And a lot of people can't understand that, how to go down there and to make that connection with your brothers and sisters from the South. Thank you, all of you on the AHS committee, for allowing us to go down and see and feel and understand this togetherness with these other humans that are a part of us here. And like Chris said, we practice the same political views. We understand what it is to survive. And I just appreciate, all of you who came with us. Everybody had a beautiful light to add to this big portrait. Curly, you did an outstanding job with this video. John Douglas, your knowledge. Um, Shelby, Lori, Louie, Akama, Chris, Ben. We all had fun. I didn't mean to leave you out, Chris. Chuck, I always think about you scalping bluebirds. But I just appreciate all of you. And I don't know who's next, so I'll turn you over to whoever's next.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for all the comments. And Curly, your video was awesome. We're going to bring everyone back on now for questions and answers. And we'll have Kelly Hayes-Gilpin, a Southwestern archaeologist, join us as well. And Shelby Tisdale, Southwestern ethnologist. Shelby, thank you. And John Douglas, who is a Southwestern archaeologist and was the president of Arc and His when this program started. So thank you, John, for your insight and support for making it happen. All right, so we have some questions, and those of you who have a question, if you have a specific person you would like to ask it to, please go ahead and put that in the question when you put it on. But I do have one question, and it is it possible to buy some of the processed brown cotton or some of the woven shirts through the museum gift shop? Anybody know if they're available? I'm assuming the museum gift shop in Tucson, or where? Let me see if we have. I don't see anything else on that. So Judith, if you have more to add, you're welcome to type it in there.
Louis might have an idea about different art shows where things like that might be featured and sold.
So the question is very general. I'm not sure if she's looking for raw cotton or for what purpose, of just to have a sample, or and when you say shirts, are you talking about the women's huipiles or the men's woven shirts? A lot of those things are not available in the US, but you can find them online as far as some of the women's huipiles or the blouses that the women wear. A lot of them tend to be pretty costly, because unfortunately what you find on the internet has gone to 2 or 3 middlemen. So they tend to be very elevated prices. So one of the advantages that we had of going down ourselves and meeting the artists is, you know, we're paying the artists, you know, their asking price for their work, which I think is the best way to do it, but I know that's not always possible. So your next best bet would be online. I'm not sure which museum store was referenced in the question, but there's a shot. If you're in the Albuquerque area, we are having a Pueblo Fiber Art Show November 27th, which is the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And several of us on the panel here, Chris and Mary, will be exhibiting at the show, and we'll have some of our wares available. So please come and check us out. Feel free to contact myself for more information on that, and we'll be happy to share it.
Thanks, Louis. Judith did give a little more information. She was wondering if there's anywhere to buy things in Tucson that the money would go directly to the weavers, but I think you answered that.
What
sounds
about
like
Eric Millington's shop in Santa Fe? Does he still do direct communication with the women co-ops in Oaxaca? Lori, do you know?
Laura, you're muted.
Yeah, I don't think Eric's shop sells a lot of goods from Oaxaca. They sell goods from other places, but he put something in the chat that said that, I guess, is Cadi Oaxaca, I guess is a company, sells brown cotton textiles in Oaxaca. So that's in the chat that people can look at to write down the name of that company.
All right. Anyone else have questions out there? That's the only question I had so far. We'll wait a minute and see if there's any other questions. It was an awesome video, Curly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And it was very good hearing everyone speak.
Yeah. I mislabeled Shelby, though. I called her an archaeologist. I'm sorry. But one thing that I forgot to say is I wanted to thank Eric for being such an awesome guide. I mean, I couldn't imagine having a better person show me around. It's funny because if anybody knows me, when I hear about guided tours, I'm always the guy that's like, I don't want a guide. I just want to go out on my own. But when you have, what Eric showed was that when you have a good guide, it really elevates the experience of the entire trip. And so Eric, if you're still listening, thank you, man. You did a great job.
Getting a few things on the chat. Living Thread Studios, come by and say hi. 1610D Lena Street. I don't know if that's Tucson. Is that Tucson or?
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe, okay. And then it's always best, Louis says again, it's always best to buy direct whenever possible. Many of the artists are on Facebook and Instagram, so that's another way to find what you're looking for and get the money where it should go. All right, I don't see any other questions. So if there are no more. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
When Curly, how can we get the copy of the video? I want a copy, please.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still some changes I want to make, some little tweaks. I want to finish out the credits at the end so I could add everybody who was involved, and I still want to do like the lower thirds so I could name everybody who while they're talking. So, but as soon as I'm done, I'll be happy to sell it to you, Ben. No, as soon as I'm done with it, yeah, I'll throw it out there and everybody will be able to access it.
That'd be great. I think the plan is to also put it on the Traditional Technologies webpage. So at least there'll be a link to YouTube or something so anyone can access it.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. I apologize for the glitches getting it started. And actually I saw that my menus were showing as well. I'm not sure what happened there, but sorry about that, but it was there and it was a great video. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate all of you coming on tonight. This is the biggest panel we've had for our lectures. So thank you. Thank you. And there are some messages coming in to say thank you to all of you again. So thanks for joining us, everyone. And we hope to see you in December for the next lecture by Rob Weiner. And thank you to the Traditional Technologies team for being here tonight. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Fran.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh,
thanks,
wait,
everyone.
wait. Don't get lost yet. Somebody else has a question. Just a minute. Oh, it's okay. It said, is it possible to prepare the video for a PBS showing?
Ooh.
That's an interesting concept, Curly.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, it might be very interesting. So a good idea. Thank you, Donna. That was from Donna Shoemaker.
What one idea that I had was I would like to have some sort of aspect to the video where people, and I don't even know how I would set this up, but if they wanted to, they could, if they enjoyed the video, possibly donating money to the communities that we went to that are being so affected by COVID right now, because they relied so heavily on tourism to sell these goods. And if there was some way to encourage people to give money directly to these communities, if I could somehow work that, into a screening of the video somehow, I would love to do that.
That would be great. All right, maybe we'll try the good night again. I don't see anyone else on there. So thank you again, and everyone have a good evening.
Good
night. Good night.
Good to see everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.